Hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Welcome to week number 3. So I'm going to level with you here. We're going to do it a little differently. I started these videos with a view to make them a bit quicker, a bit faster to watch than Sai and Sherpa Dave. And I feel like I've failed. So this week we're going fast and furious. So ladies and gentlemen, this is week 3. This is New York Park Perimeter. So let's take a look at the key points. 4 laps for all categories. A total of 39.2 kilometers, 506.9 feet of elevation. It is a points race and there is only one sprint segment awarding fastest through the segment points to the fastest through over the whole race, and first across the line points to the first over the line on each of the 4 available laps. This is the New York Sprint. It's a fast, short downhill sprint, only 150 meters, minus 4% in gradient. So this one is going to be really fast. Look at the power-ups this week. We have the Aero helmet, which is awesome. Use this in the sprints. The feather, which is decent. Use this on the climbs. It'll make you 10% lighter. So for someone like me, that's a 9.5 kilo weight saving.
He's fat!
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. And lastly, there's the anvil, and this is our trash power-up of the week. It's not as useless as the last couple of weeks. It'll make you 50 kilos heavier for 30 seconds. So mistime this one at your peril, but I don't see any great places to use it. So the next stop on our rundown is bike choice. This week we're going to be either looking for the Tron or for the Specialized S-Works Venge once again. It's a rolly course and doesn't have climb long enough really to justify anything other than having the best aero setup that you can. So out on course we're going to come out of the pens. You can see them here just on the left hand side, and when you come out the pens you're going to take a left and you will be on to the course proper. So you're going to come out and onto basically a false flat uphill around 4% at its very peak, but you're still going to be flat out after the start, so there's nothing really to worry about. Then it's some more rollers as we go left and right and into another false flat uphill at around 2%. I'd imagine we're still going to be going pretty hard here, so it's just a case of keeping the legs turning over. There will be some short relief coming up very shortly. So around 1.3 kilometers, the road turns downhill, hits a maximum of minus 6%. Not really enough to super tuck, but a nice bit of relief. And then they're going to have about 400 meters of false flats, a little bit of uphill, and then the road turns violently downhill after the fork in the road. And it gets up to about minus 8, but it's still not really enough to super tuck, but just a little rest for the legs. Then it's onto a false flat, and then at 3.2 kilometers, we are going to start the hill section. So it's not a long climb, it's only about 600 meters, but it does hit gradients of up to 11% at its peak. You'll be looking for the 4.2 kilometer marker. When you get to the end, you'll see the road go past the fake glass roads, and then it's onto the really steep section here, but this could be where the race breaks apart. Then you get 400 meters of downhill as the climb ends at 3.8 and it's downhill to 4.2. The respite is brief though, as the road immediately points back upwards and it's getting up to around 5% before eventually flattening out at around 4.8 kilometers. Then we got a couple of kilometers of never-ending rolly terrain. This course is absolutely full of it, hardly any flat whatsoever. So we've got constant ups, constant downs, false flats and short sharp descents just to keep the pace high. And then as we go on to around 7 kilometers, you're going to see the junction coming up, and when you take the right turn at the junction, you know that we are going to start going uphill a little bit steeper once again. And when you see the junction, you know that that's when you need to start picking up the pace, because just after this uphill rise that peaks at around 6%, then it is into the sprint point for this race. The New York Sprint section is just on the downhill after this. So the pace will have slowed because of the uphill, but this is short and very downhill, 150 meters long, so build the power on the uphill, then blast through this section. It's going to come at you at 7.3 kilometers on lap 1, 17.1 on lap 2, 27 kilometers on lap 3, and 36.8 kilometers on lap number 4. So after the sprint, it's some more rolling terrain with some gentle ups and downs, around 1 or 2%. Nothing too much to worry about. And then we're going to go onwards and we'll hit another short, sharp rise at around 8.6 kilometers on lap 1. It's just short though, and it eases back down to around 2% at 8.8. Then it's onto some more rolling ground before we run into a short downhill at 9.3 kilometers, which will last for about 200 meters. Now when you come off this downhill, you're going to want to try and keep as much of the pace as high as possible. So the downhill finishes at 9.5 kilometers on lap 1, 38.9 kilometers on lap 2, and you really want to keep that pace because you are coming into the finish sprint on the final lap. Now you'll see the road starts to pick up after that downhill, and it starts at around 3%, but as it continues to go up, it will peak as high as 9% just before the finish banner, which you can see there. And you will need to time your efforts really well just to make sure that you do not run out of gas just before the finish line. It's going to be a mad uphill sprint to the banner, and this is ultimately where the race is going to be won and lost. So time your power-ups and make sure you've done your research. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at where we think this race is going to be won and lost. There is hardly any flat on this course. Lots and lots of uphills, downhills, and rises and falls. However, I can only see two main places that this one is going to be broken up. The first one, of course, at the start. This is going to be hard, it's going to be fast, and it's going to blow off anyone that's not warmed up and not ready. Another is going to be the long rise in the course at 3.2 kilometers into the lap. This hits 11%, it lasts for almost 600 meters, and this is most likely where the biggest break is going to go. And the final place that I think this is going to break up is on the sprints. If anyone is not able to keep up with the pace as it picks up on the sprint, you might find yourself out of the draft and your race might be over. So this is where we wrap up our trip to New York. I look forward to seeing you next week for our first team time trial in France. As always, subscribe for more route reviews and race content. Check out the cliff notes below, and I will see you next week.